The corruption in the judiciary with a big question mark, and we'll be joining our Abuja studios as we've got Ismaeel Ahmed. He's a legal practitioner, joins us from there. Morning, and thank you for joining us. Well, yes, we have heard gotten comments about that going on. As a matter of fact, practitioners, senior ones too, think that nothing wrong with dealing with it because it's happened before. And so if this will happen to cleanse the system, fine, bring it on. Do you think it's a good thing, by the way, for it to be mentioned that the commission, the EFCC, focusing on 5 judges this time on allegations of corruption?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me today. The issue of corruption, I guess, has become a topic of the day and subject of every discussion in every sector of the Nigerian society. But what is most disheartening is corruption in the judicial system. I'm going to answer your question on corruption in the judiciary in twofold. One, as a legal practitioner who is a stakeholder in the justice system, and 2, as an ordinary citizen of this country. As a legal practitioner, sometimes I'm even embarrassed at the level of rot and corruption that is attained in the judicial system. And sometimes I'm dumbfounded because I see a judge as some sort of being a judge is the most dignified position you can possibly have in a society, because you have powers that are only rivaled by God. The power to determine what or who is right or wrong in a society, it's in enormous powers. Now, to belittle that position for any pecuniary or political advantage, to me, is a tragedy beyond moral comprehension. So, when we see things like an allegation of corruption in judiciary, it's I don't know, it pisses people like us off, because we're stakeholders, and it's sad, it's pathetic.
Well, some people say it's not just a case of, of judges. It's also about the process. As a lawyer who maybe needs to file cases every now and again, how have you been able to deal with this everyday corruption, as it were? It's almost, some people say it's so common, it's almost customary, it's almost a culture. How do you deal with it?
That corruption comes with the culture?
No. What I'm saying is, some say it doesn't just lie with the judges, that it permeates the entire system, so much so that, before you're able to file, say, court process, before the bailiff is able to serve those who need to be summoned with court processes, it's all a system riddled with everyday corruption. Do you think that there is hope? As a lawyer, how are you able to deal with this on a daily basis, or whenever it is that you need to file a case, for instance?
Well, to start with, yeah, I do believe that it's not the culprits are not only the judges. By far, they're not. The lawyers are complicit in it. The litigants, in most cases, and like you rightly said, there's this culture sec, this expectation that if you have money, if you can dole out bribes, then you can get away with anything in this country. I know that there is that, but the process itself is so clogged sometimes that that you find easy avenues for corruption. I totally agree with that. For example, you have cases where you have little as land cases or chieftaincy title cases going all the way to the Supreme Court. and before it gets all the way up to the Supreme Court, you have it waylaid in the Court of Appeals, or in the magistrate courts, or in the high courts, or in the federal high courts for a number of years, and the system encourages that somehow, and then you have a backlog of a lot of cases before these justices, and they will have to sit through it. And I think in the last count, the former CJN, Justice Nair Mustafa, before he left office, he made mention that there were like 15,000 cases or so, about 1,500 or 15,000 cases before the Supreme Court, and they are all supposed to be decided within the years of 2011 and 2012. So if you hear this kind of backlog, which is encouraged by the system, you are appalled, and how it was so much was able to accumulate through getting the wrongs of the loopholes in the system. So I think, yeah, the judges are not the only culprits. They are by far not the only ones. We lawyers, in most parts, we are complicit in it as well. The system is fraught with a lot of irregularities and uncertainties, and it encourages this recklessness in the judicial aspect as well.
Do you see a way out of it? Is there hope?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if something is so rampant, is so in the process, do you see any way out of it?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This system was created by people, and we could sit down, we could rectify it, and in the recently there's been a lot of talk about judicial reform in the constitutional review that's coming up. The constitutional amendment is coming up. There's a lot of talk, and I know that the outgoings, the previous CJN has submitted a couple of few reforms to National Assembly for implementation into the new constitution, if there's going to be any new constitution, and I think it's going to help. The system could be streamlined to be focused on justice delivery, as against just taking everything to court and then sitting on it. You can unburden and unclog all these cases that gets clogged, and then they get dumped in the courts, and sometimes the courts don't even pay any attention to them because probably they do not have any high-profile litigants in them, or it's not a very important case. In most cases, I find that if you file a case, you have to keep pursuing it and make sure you apply a lot of pressure through whatever means necessary to make sure that your case is heard, and then judgment is delivered expeditiously.